just making sure this is on and working. I don't know what the hell's on and off and sideways and left and right, but I'm here with you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Welcome to the Paranormal Portal Night Terrors. Hope you're in the mood to be entertained. I'm going to do my best to make that happen. I always do, but it's Thursday. Good night. Just got done doing an interview. It was a great interview with an author of some Bigfoot books, so that'll be really exciting. I'm really excited to put it on the air for you guys, but that's going to be through the podcast. It's going to be a podcast show, but literally just got done and then came to get everything ready for the live stream tonight. So I am kind of catching my tail here, but I hope you guys are doing great, and thank you for being here. Hello to all you guys in the chat that are piling in. Great to see you guys. Hello, Mr. MCatch. I appreciate that EVP you sent over. That was a lot of fun to put on the show and go over. I don't know if you were listening out there in the, whatever part of the world you happen to be in currently, but it was a lot of fun. Great EVP. I really appreciate that, and everybody really enjoyed it. So thank you for that content, brother. That's awesome. So these are our night terrors, ghostly encounters. We'll be going over some ghostly encounters reported by people experiencing them. Supposedly real. Everything I'm reading you on the show, everything I present on this show is at least represented as real. Can I verify all of it is? No. Can I verify some of it is? Yeah, I can. Sometimes I tell you about my own stuff, and then, unless I've lost my grip on reality, it's all real. So that is, the scope and course of our show. So hope you guys like it. Are so slow. Oh, your notifications are slow. Yeah, definitely. Everybody check that bell. I hear that every once in a while. In fact, I hear most often that people say, hey, my bell got unrung. And I don't know why that is. I don't know why that happens. It's not unique to this show, though. Everybody on YouTube has those same problems. I hear other creators talking about, hey, hearing that their subscribers had, not had their notifications on when they were on. So I don't know why that is. I don't know what happens. It could just be the fact, a lot of people like to think, oh, there's a YouTube's messing with things, but I think it's just a complex, huge operation they got going on, and sometimes glitchy crap happens. Hell, my operation here is pretty humble, but it's complex for me, and I get weird crap going on all the time, and I don't suggest that all of it's paranormal. I question if it's possible, but I think it's just the way electronics work. Things just go sideways. So just definitely check that every once in a while. Make sure, if you're not already getting notifications, to do that. Check your notifications. Make sure it's still rung. But anyway, let me ask you guys, when you were little, did you guys ever play Ding Dong Ditch or something to a neighbor's house? Annie M is asking. Yeah, we didn't necessarily play Ding Dong Ditch because I grew up out in the country, and I know she's asking pretty much everybody, I think. But yes, but we played a thing called Kick the Can. Was our big thing, where you put a bucket or a can out in the yard, and then everybody had to go hide in the woods and whatever, and try to sneak in before the person that was it could find you. And if they found you or tagged you as you're running in to kick the bucket, but if you kick the bucket, you're home free. That was our game, and it was really cool. I guess it was before I was really aware of the paranormal and started to get nervous about what happens in the dark places. But I was a dumb country kid, and I didn't know any better, and we had a lot of fun. But that's how I grew up. So it was a lot of fun. We didn't really do Ding Dong Ditch, though, because all of our neighbors knew we were the only kids around. So they wouldn't have to go far to figure out who was ringing their doorbell. It was like we were for like a few miles around. So it wasn't probably that much of a challenge, and we didn't want to piss off the neighbors. So what do you do? But anyway, these are the night terrors. The phone lines are open throughout the course of our show tonight. If you want to call in and be a part of it, I'd love to hear from you. If you got something paranormal to share, 720-923-0500. Again, 720-923-0500, or look right up here, right where my hand is pointing. There's a little mini phone number there. And that's the same number I'm telling you. That's how you call in. So later on, if you're like, oh, what was that number again? And nobody's put it up in chat and you can't remember, it's on the screen right up here. So anyway, I guess without further ado, we'll just get back at it here. And hopefully you'll enjoy yourselves. Don't go away. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live and underway here. And I meant to say, are you ready for bed? Or it's time for bed. That's what I usually say. All right, so I got some stories pulled up for you guys, and from all over the country here in America. I could do some searches for other countries if you guys would like to hear anything specific to a given country or region. I can certainly do that, but I just have a whole host of them in my bucket here that I can pull up for the fine United States of America. So if you want to hear some stories from another neck of the woods out there, just let me know and I'll do some research and pull up some stories for you. So anyway, the first story we're going to go over tonight is coming from Hawaii. Oh, this is a good author too. This person has submitted several, and I believe I think it's a she, is a sensitive. But very cool experiences that they've submitted. I've run into their stories many, many times and shared them on the show here, and always enjoyed them. Really, really well done. So it has to do with haunted places. So it says, a couple of days prior to Easter, I drove past an old Catholic church. It's a beautiful building with lots of charm, but in the parking lot, it's shared by another denomination. The second church sits almost directly behind the first one, and for some odd reason, I found myself staring to the right of both buildings. Slowing down my auto, I found myself pulling into the parking lot. Driving past the entrance of the Catholic church, I drove towards the set of steps leading to the statue of Christ on the cross. My blood pressure appeared to be rising, and I was agitated. I didn't feel good to be near this area. The statue was bleached white by the tropical sun, and it hurt my eyes to look at it, the crown of thorns, the blood running down the frozen face. It made me angry, and I didn't know why. The more I stared at the statue, the clearer it became. I wasn't really angry. The entities that came out from behind the statue, they were the angry ones. They were, one by one, they emerged. A young boy wearing pajama bottoms and no shirt. A middle-aged woman in a robe and slippers. And they sat on the steps and stared at the statue. An elderly man with a grumpy face, he sat nearby, and I knew he was mad that he had died. All of the ghosts were giving off different levels of emotion. They gave off emotional sadness, anger, awe, and confusion. The boy started to cry into his hands, and I felt such loneliness coming from him, and he faded away. And another took his place, a balding 40-something male, was suddenly there, but he wasn't angry. He was just curious. He smiled at the statue and dematerialized. Sitting myself down on the bottom step, the wave of anger left me. Disappointed, I can only assume the anger was structured around my being there, possibly even towards me. I'll never know for sure. None of the entities attempted to talk to me. I counted 12 entities in that 15-minute span. The sun on my back, it was soothing, but there was nothing more to do here. Standing back up, I saw the last ghost. She was a tiny speck of a girl. Her stick straight hair stopped at her waist, and she wore her Sunday best. The dress was cream-colored and covered in tiny flowers. I guess she was most likely buried in this beautiful garment. She was 4 or 5 years old, and she wrapped her arms around the feet of the statue. Jesus, she said. Her eyes were huge with admiration. It was a simple statement, and it brought tears to my eyes. I think she was waiting for someone. She stared up into the face of the statue, and she smiled. It was a soft smile, and she looked back at me with those big brown eyes. Her flawless face still had the freshness of living youth. How or when she died, it didn't matter. What was she still doing here? I barely had time to return her smile before she evaporated into a misty mass. The mist moved behind the statue and dissipated. Walking behind the statue, I found myself staring down into a large cemetery. Headstones dotted the hillside and followed the valley below. It made sense to me now. These entities were being drawn to the statue here. It is a beautiful statue, and as I was leaving to go back to my car, I saw an elderly nun going over to the steps. She smiled at me and I smiled back, and I heard her clothing rustle as she passed me. And when I turned to watch her climb the steps, she was gone. She had looked so real. I saw her rosary. I felt her warm smile. The sparkle in her eyes had been so clear. A chill went over me for a moment, and I pulled open the car door. And when I climbed in and pulled the seatbelt across my body, I looked over to the statue one last time. The nun was sitting on the top step, and in her lap was the little girl I had seen. They seemed to be talking, and I smiled once again. The nun looked at me and pulled the child close to her body. It was a loving gesture, and I felt comforted. I think this child was going to be crossing soon, and it touched my heart. Why a nun, I wondered. A child this young doesn't understand religion or the complexity of the Catholic Church. And oh well, another question to ask when it was my turn to cross over. As I started up my car, I didn't worry myself with the paranormal activity. A nun or someone who had appeared as a nun was the one in charge here. That's really cool. Now, I've often wondered, what would that be like? What would it be like to be able to just see those things? And I'm kind of at a crossroads with it myself. I think I'm very much in admiration of people that can see all of these spirits, things that go on around us. And at the same time, I'm kind of glad that I don't see it, because maybe there's a lot to see and maybe it's hard to process. Now, this same person has written other stories, or someone similar to this person has submitted other stories of, and we've covered it on the show, but she was talking about, no, this one, the other person was from, I believe, California, the very southern part of California, and she is a sensitive, and she talked of walking on the beach with her husband towards, near the border. And there's a part near the border between the U.S. and Mexico where apparently a wall goes out into the ocean, as a, so that they can't just, go around the corner and they're in a different country. So the problem is that, of course, people attempt to make that journey around and apparently die and drown in several cases. I don't know. Perhaps they didn't know how to swim or whatever the case, but it just occurred to me that, you'd have to watch that kind of stuff, or you'd have to see that kind of stuff. And I can't watch, that kind of thing. Or at least I choose not to. I mean, I can't say I've never witnessed that kind of thing in my life. I have. I saw, the remains of somebody being pulled out of a train, a car that was hit by a train and dragged for miles. And it was really tough. I was just in high school, and it really hit me hard. It was like, wow, this was a person, and now he's just a mess. And what a brutal thing that must have been. So I don't know that I want to see the person suffering through that. So that's the other side of it. But perhaps along with that comes the control and the ability to turn it off. Maybe not. Maybe you just got to deal with it. I don't know. But these glimpses like this, I think, are just really incredible because, sometimes spirits do linger around their bodies, and why, I don't know. What is it about their remains that anchor them to that point? I don't know. I suppose the fact that we live in these bodies, they will always be an anchor for our spirit to some degree. I don't know. And maybe by virtue of being cremated, maybe that changes that. I don't know. Again, lots of questions. This is how my head works. So I'm just sharing it with you because, I think that story is beautiful. It's also tragic. That's tragic that there are these confused spirits and mad and angry and, not really happy that that's how things worked out for them. And that would be tough. That'd be tough to have to deal with all that. But that's the empathy of it. That's the hard part. So let's go to the next one. And this one is coming from Maryland. And it has to do with haunted places. We're dealing with haunted places tonight. Let me see. I don't know what the hell this is. It's very long. Well, it's kind of long. All right, it's kind of written like a legal document, but I'll read it. And it's from August 12th, 2006, and it's from Maryland, and it's between the hours of 5 a.m. and the late hours of 8 p.m. for the main story. Okay, 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. Then it does an occurrences, unexplainable. Many questions from the story have not been explained in any other way aside from the paranormal. Disclaimer, all things happening in the story are real, albeit unexplained. There were 4 witnesses at all times during all events. It starts out posted. No trespassing. The thin yellow sign you always see pasted to trees with staples, usually for hunting purposes, and sometimes used for private property borders, and always such a unfriendly invitation to my curiosity. The forests along the road are plastered with these little yellow signs. They are up here, too. An old friend of mine used to live up on basically a logging road that's got cabins and seasonal homes along it. And you drive along that logging trail, and it's just no trespassing, no trespassing. Everywhere you go, it's like, stay on the damn road, don't get off. And it's all this forest. It's just all this forest. So, it seems odd. I mean, sure, you don't want people wandering on your property and falling and getting hurt and suing you and all that stuff. So I can understand the legal reasons for it, but it's kind of an ugly thing to see when you're out in this pristine forest and all around you is these no trespassing, do not enter, no trespassing. So anyway, the trees are on higher grounds while the road is downhill. And that is to say, if you're on the road, the trees are up the hill and lined side by side, forming a natural fence with these little yellow squares on them. Yeah, that's a hell of a postcard look. If you're smart, you'd stay away, but if you're a genius, you'd know it's telling you to pop in. Being the incredibly intelligent man that I am, I gathered a few friends to go back with me there, not knowing what we'd find and not knowing what could possibly happen. We scheduled to go out at about 5 a.m. and go into these woods, the nightfall not lifting until around 7 a.m., and we did as planned. Not at all concerned by the cold morning air, we ventured off into the woods past the yellow signs. We went leading to the top where there was a manhole. There were 3 paths going into 3 different directions, each part lined with a thick layer of concrete. The road that used to be there, was gone. Well, we started by taking the middle path, going back to find a long, concrete-sided road. The soft, moist ground below us was making little noises as we ventured on. At around 6 a.m., we began to feel a bit unwanted. At first, we thought it was because we weren't supposed to be trespassing in that area. However, over time, this sense grew a bit overwhelming. After a few hours of walking, we found another manhole, and realizing we had come back to the first manhole, the sun finally did come up. And we went down the left path, and all 4 of us feeling as if we were being watched by something. 11 a.m. or around then, we ended up reaching a point where the trees had fallen everywhere, making it hard for us to continue on. The wind began to pick up at an extreme rate, and one of our group members, who happened to be black, thought that this was a bad sign. We came to an agreement and decided to ignore it. And at around 2 p.m., we reached a big stream that had eaten away at the path. We searched around trying to find the other side for a half hour, and after finding it, we continued on. And this is the part that really makes this a ghost story. We began hearing footsteps behind us while we walked. And we knew it was none of us because it would go on a bit after all 4 of us had stopped. Sounds like they're being shadowed to me by a Bigfoot, perhaps. At one point, we broke into a run, stopping after finding an abandoned neighborhood. It was as if it were the result of a town that had been the victim of a bombing. There were roads just like the ones we had trekked all the way up here, and there were fire hydrants, manholes, broken down cars, housing structures, appliances in the areas where the houses were, and lots of other things were still there. It was as if the entire neighborhood had just vanished. We stayed in that particular area for about 3 hours just searching, and the only reason we left was because something began to make strange noises. At first, you'd think the noises are just branches falling from trees or animals in the forest just foraging for food. Many reasons to run through your head in those situations. And me and my friends named these thoughts comforting suggestions. Listening, it had sounded as if someone was walking through the woods behind us, but when you hear glass breaking as if someone had thrown a beer bottle on the ground, you know something is up. We ran in the opposite direction we had come, and ultimately leading us into a long run through random paths through the forest. Well, eventually we took a break and it got dark. Thankfully, we found the road shortly after nightfall and began walking back home. And that's when the noises started getting more and more paranormal. We heard the glass breaking noise 3 more times, a noise that sounded as if someone had climbed a tree and fell onto the road, turning around to find no one there, and a noise that sounded like a sort of shriek. And finally, a sound that we eventually agreed sounded like a monkey. Trust me, when you live in Maryland and something makes a damn monkey-sounding noise, you'll get your behind out of there. Yeah, they got those devil monkeys or whatever out there. I can't remember what they call them, but I think Albat Witch is one name that they have out there. These ferocious monkeys that attack cars and everything. We ran our behinds back to the house, to my house, after hearing that, and I don't think any of us have run that fast in all of our lives before. To this day, we've gone back, though, through 4 times, but have not been back for about 8 months. If you would like photos and sound recordings or like to ask any questions, please feel free. Okay. With enough support, I'll be glad to relive the hell that forest is to collect sound recordings and images. Oh. I don't know. It sounds to me like they were being followed by what could be a Sasquatch. That's really common behavior in Sasquatch, as most of you know, because most of you are very avid Sasquatch listeners to many Sasquatch shows. But the shadowing is real common. The breaking of branches, obviously. They want you to know that they're there because they want to intimidate you to get the hell out of there. That seems to be why they do this. They don't have to make noise going through the forest. Many, many people have not heard a thing and had them just pop right up. And so it's not as if they have no choice like we. When we walk through the forest, we make noise because we walk on sticks and break them. And there's leaf litter and all kinds of crap that we're not used to walking through. And so we make a lot of noise. We stick out like a sore thumb. But there's so many stories of Sasquatch traversing what would seem like impossible ground that should be making noise absolutely silent as if they were spirit-like. Now, is that a physical trick? Maybe. Is it the fact that they might be have a foot in 2 different worlds? Maybe. I don't know. And I'm not trying to suggest it's one or the other, but there's many examples that they don't need to make sound at all. So they're choosing to. They're choosing to get people uncomfortable and to get them out of there. But again, there are those stories of the Albat Witch, which is, I don't know, they look like, from what I understand, they look kind of like a baboon. They got that a little bit of elongated snout and huge, huge teeth, and they're ferocious as hell, and they'll attack anything that comes around. They are just extraordinarily territorial. So could it be that? Sure, I don't know. But I don't think this is spirit. I don't think this is ghost at all. I think what they're dealing with is some form of being. And I don't want to say creature because, We don't know what the hell they are, but they're, very much there and out there in the wild places, and they don't seem to like it when we traverse through their areas a whole lot. So I think that's what was going on in this. I think you actually got potentially a Bigfoot story tonight, even though it's Ghostly Encounters. Free, absolutely upgraded at no extra charge. I upgraded that for you. Yeah, I don't know. I just stumbled on it. It's supposed to be a ghost story, but I don't think that is. This one's coming from Florida. It's a bit longer. It's a bit longer one, but I like the long stories too because I like the short ones as well. But the longer stories usually have so much more of a robust narrative. You can get a better idea of what's going on. So they're a little harder to read and read well. I mean, I think I do okay for cold reading everything I do on the show. It's not like I rehearse these things before I go live. It's just like, oh, there's a good story. Let's check that one out. So let's see what this one is. So it's Florida. It has to do with ghost hunting. Uh-oh. Is this one of those? I'm just going to scan it a little bit. I just want to make sure it reads like a story and not like a logbook. Yeah, I guess it's okay. So it has to do with ghost hunting, and it's from 2009, so it's quite a while ago. But it says, my experience started months back when I decided to go do some cemetery investigations, okay, with another paranormal team. What we never did was pray for protection, not before or after leaving any investigation, cemetery, or dwelling, which is a really bad idea. I think especially when you're on hallowed ground or sacred ground like that, you should pray. You should pray and ask for prayers for the people that are there as well, the spirits that might be lingering. So I think you got to go into those situations with respect. I never actually thought about it. I actually never thought about it. When I would get home, my wife would tell me that I was acting very strange and mean towards her and the rest of my family. I never realized that I had changed. Yeah, something's not right. So always pray for protection before and after any investigation. If you're still a paranormal investigator after reading my testimony, then the next part of my story is where things started getting really strange. I was home on the couch at around 4:30 a.m. one morning several months ago watching television, and I must have dozed off and woke back up at around 4:45 a.m. And to my surprise, I saw a gray, fluffy cat. He jumped up on the back of the couch that I was lying on and meowed at me. We do not own or have a cat. Jeez. I tried to sit up and I couldn't. I couldn't move, almost as if I was paralyzed. No matter how hard I tried, I just could not get up. I tried to scream to the kids to give me a hand, and I couldn't even move my mouth. It was as if my mouth was sealed shut. I was completely freaked out by this time. I was finally able, after struggling for some time, to finally sit up, and he was still on the back of the couch, and he glared at me. I think it might be Dumbledore. Or Professor McGonagall, perhaps. I'm not trying to be stupid. I mean, this could very well be. But then he jumped off the couch and was gone. And it was like he disappeared. I woke up my son, who was 14, and said, "Get up and help me find this cat." After I told him what he looked like, and he looked at me like, "Dad, you're crazy. There's no cat." We never did find the cat, and all of this happened after I went on an investigation to another cemetery. The Saturday before this cat thing happened, I had went to another cemetery and didn't pray before or after visiting there. My wife told me later in the week that something was wrong and that she felt as if I was mean and that she felt hate from me. She also said that I was changing, and I told her she was crazy and that there was nothing wrong with me. At the end of the week, we had another investigation to go on, and this was going to be a home one. Well, we did pray when we went in and after we left. Monday morning, I woke up along with my wife at 4 a.m., and I looked into her eyes and saw what I couldn't believe. An evil look that was piercing right through me. Oh, that's horrible. God, that is horrible. I got a feeling like I was wanting to do one of those evil laughs at me. I think she was wanting to do, but they missed that in the dialogue. And I told my wife, "Let's get up and get me your anointing oil." So we started in our bedroom, praying and anointing every corner and all the doors, windows, and bed. And she then opened up the back door, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flash of light going out the door. I told her to close it. The thickness and the heaviness seemed to have left our bedroom. I felt so happy that it worked, or at least it seemed to me that it did, and I told her we needed to do the rest of the house. The whole time I was thinking, this can't be happening. I'm a paranormal investigator. I go places to help people out with these things. Why is this happening to me? Because you're there, and because you weren't asking for any kind of protection. We got through the whole house, and when we got to the living room, I told my wife there's something evil in here. I told her to open the door so it could leave, and I commanded the evil to leave again with authority in Jesus' name. We heard it go out, and something hit the door. I told her it was gone and to close the door. We sat down, and I told her I needed to smoke after all that. So we went on the front porch and looked across the street, and we saw a cat. It was across the street, and it looked at me in the eyes, and it shook its head in the weirdest way I have ever seen. It arched up, all bushy tail, and hissed like we never heard a cat hiss. You felt pure evil from the hiss alone. And after that, it fell to the ground. I picked up a rock to throw at it, and it didn't budge. My wife picked up a rock and walked towards it, and it took off, and we didn't see where it went. The next day, I was still having trouble with it all and was having a hard time sleeping or understanding what was happening, so I called a family member and told them what was going on, and they said I needed to call a preacher because I was still a sinner and not saved, even though I believed in God. I said, yeah, okay, whatever. Later in the day, I got calls from 4 different people all saying the same thing. So then I figured God is trying to tell me something and that I'd better obey him. But I was still thinking on my time and not on his, God. And I also talked to a friend, founder of a team, and told him the story, and he said I needed to be prayed up. And he sent me prayers, and then he uses when doing investigations, and a binding prayer to be done on the outside of your home. So my family went outside, and we did the prayer. After we did it, everything felt good, and everything was all right. The following day, I went to one of my family's home, and before I left, we had an argument. I was told by this family member, I hope the spirit don't come back tonight to get you again. I was pretty mad at that comment being made to me. I told my wife about it because it really did upset me. We came to the decision to call a minister and have him come by, so we called him and told him the story, and he said, something needs to be done now. Can I come? And we both said yes. But I was thinking to myself, I already done this, and we don't really need him. So we waited, and he came. He went into our bedroom and said, there's more than one in this room, and he is on your side of the bed, Paul, and that we needed to get rid of them now. He put anointing oil on our foreheads before starting anything, and he told my wife to get her oil and put crosses over every door and window in the house and a cross in the middle of our bed. And I told him I already did this, and he said, you are not saved, and that Jesus has to be in you, or the spirits can come back. So he and my wife stood in the kitchen and then did a prayer to sweep the home. He told me, when I tell you open the door, so they prayed, and I opened the door, and he told my wife to go back in our bedroom and sit on the bed, and she did. And she said, it's gone. We went back into our kitchen, and the preacher looked at me and said to my wife, look at his eyes. I said, yeah, they feel really heavy, and I'm exhausted. I then received Jesus back into my heart, and my wife rededicated her life back along with 2 of our children. And then after that, The preacher and my wife told me my eyes were pure black before the prayer, and my eyes are normally blue. And that after the prayer, they turned right back to the natural blue color. I totally believed them. I believed that the demons had gotten a hold of me and was causing me to have so many health problems, including back pains and blood clots in my legs, as well as causing me to be hateful, nasty, and distant towards my own wife. I woke up this morning and my back is 80% better than it has been. I think one of those demons had attached itself to my back, and the preacher told me that these demons were why my wife was having problems in her back as well. I now know that if anyone is involved in any type of paranormal stuff, those spirits are familiar spirits and they're not your loved ones. If you must continue, stay prayed up. Stay prayed up before and during any investigation, and that you will put on the armor of God. And as far as cemeteries go, I won't be doing those anymore. There are too many spirits out there, and I don't want to put myself or my family back into the predicament again. My advice to everyone who does this type of investigating is to be saved and prayed up. You can't fight these things alone without the whole armor of God and God. They can follow you home. You can listen to this story and you can decide for yourself. But I'm telling you what happened to me and my family, and I felt I needed to do this to warn of the dangers. Thanks for letting me share this with you. Please be careful if you feel you must be an investigator. I'm now available for performing deliverance in your home and for yourself to rid those familiar spirits from destroying your life. Wow, that is pretty intense. Very intense, ladies and gentlemen. Now, here's the thing. I know that this takes into account a very Christian point of view, and that's fine. And they're absolutely right. But it's not exclusive to Christianity. It's any religion, any spirituality whatsoever. Make sure that you ask for protection. Make sure that you ask for cleansing, and make sure to protect yourself before going into any investigation. Different people have different methods of doing this, and it's up to you to decide which one's best for you. But that's the part of the whole paranormal craze, is that with the inundation of all of these different shows showing investigating and showing haunted objects and places where the haunted objects are stored, like Zach Bagans Museum and whatever in Las Vegas. All of these things are very potent, and these spirits may very well want to attach to whomever they can. I'm not sure what kind of condition they're in, what the state of being is like, but you got to imagine that's sitting in a fork or in a hairbrush somewhere has got to get pretty old. So the idea is probably to pass your essence on, and it's almost reminiscence of like the Horcrux from Harry Potter. And the interesting thing about those movies and movies like that is that they do draw on belief systems and ideas, like the whole Jedi thing and the Force thing was very much adopted from many different religions and cultures to create that spirituality of the Jedi, and the same is true for Harry Potter. Everything that she talks about or had mentioned in her books comes from a lot of mythologies and religions and ideas and beliefs, and there's a lot of embellishment, but there's a little bits of truth. So be careful. Again, all these paranormal shows, they show people just going out and it's like the newest thrill ride. It's like the newest reality show. It's like, hey, what do you want to do? Let's go investigate a cemetery. Well, it sounds great. Everybody's got cemeteries. They're all over the place. And it's easily accessible. So people do that. But, if you're not protected, if you're not in a good place, you really shouldn't be doing investigations, because what you're dealing with in many cases are very restless souls, very restless spirits. If they're haunting, or if they're stuck somewhere. They're in a place, and most often after an investigation, the paranormal activity is going to crank way up because people come in and they I mean, many cases they're doing it in a kind way, but it's like if you're in your home and somebody came in there and started asking you questions and telling you to turn the TV on, turn it off, turn it on, turn it off. Can you turn on this light? Can you make this thing go? Can you do that? And it's like, get out of my house. What are you doing in here? Well, again, death is just the absence of a body. These spirits can be still there, and they don't want to be pestered and bothered. They're not there to perform and entertain you. They're probably working through something, and they're maybe in a tough place. It might be something incredibly tragic. They might be, not all there, and so you don't know what you're dealing with, and certainly to walk in unprotected is not smart. So always protect yourself. Always make sure that you've done your homework. And they mentioned anointing oil. And again, I've mentioned this on the show before, but you can make anointing oil. Anybody can do it. I would suggest it be involving some kind of spirituality. At least have some kind of faith, or just have a faith in the divine. It doesn't have to be any specific faith. It's just a faith, and believe it. But you can make your own anointing oil, and it can be very powerful based upon your belief in it. You can protect yourself with that. You can anoint yourself with that prior to an investigation. You can purchase anointing oils too. Just go on eBay or Amazon or wherever, and you can find places that sell anointing oils that are, made according to religious recipe and prayed over or whatever. You can buy holy water. You can do all that stuff, but protect yourself and cleanse yourself at the end. Cleanse yourself at the end. Don't leave a place and just say, okay, we're done. See ya. You have to have the dialogue. You got to have that, you can't follow me. You're not allowed to. This is not okay. You must stay here by the light of God, the divine light of the universe. You must stay, whatever, however you want to do it. But it's important not to leave that door open, because something may very well be coming at you. So don't bring extra stuff home. All right. So let's see where we're at. 44. We got about 15 minutes left, roughly. But good story. That was very good advice. Very interesting story. Very scary. And we've got a call. So let me get to this call and find out just what's going on here. And this is area code 605. Sorry. You're on the air.
Geez, man, I've been waiting for 15 minutes.
Well, it's got to be worth waiting for, right? How you doing, brother?
It's Taco. Come on now.
Taco, what's going on, brother?
What's going on? I remember sending you a message that I saw another something in the sky. I don't know if I'd consider it a UFO, but that's kind of why I called.
Oh, I remember seeing it. I'm sorry. I'm getting absolutely blown away with messages lately and interviews and stuff. So my apologies for dropping the ball on that. But your brother, tell us about it.
No, you don't have to apologize, man. You're a busy guy. I get it. So I was up north. Mm-hmm. By up north, I mean I was 2 hours, 45 minutes from where I live, going north at my parents' house. And we were all outside, and it was a gorgeous night. I mean, it was great. We were sitting on the deck. There was a campfire. We had friends over. And up there, it's the stars are different, I guess. Not by much, but...
Sure.
And I'm looking up, and I see this one star. I don't know if it was a star. I don't know what it was, but, I mean, it was the same size as all the rest, so I assume it was a good distance away.
Uh-huh.
Excuse me. And it was changing colors and just going in a straight line.
Wow.
And then it disappeared.
Changing colors?
And I asked and like reds and blues and greens, and it just disappeared. And I asked everyone there if they saw it. There was, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 10 people there. And they all saw it, and they're all telling me it was a satellite. Oh. Now, is that normal for a satellite? Because, I mean, it was moving. It was...
If you saw it change,
there's no other way to put it.
If you saw it changing colors, then that doesn't sound like a satellite. Satellites can shine with the reflection of the sunlight if they're high up enough that they catch the sun as it's past the horizon and it's dark. But they don't change colors unless there's some weird refraction of the light happening. But I've never witnessed that personally. I've seen lots of satellites.
Okay, let's say. Sorry, go ahead.
I said I've seen lots of satellites, and none of them have ever changed color.
Yeah, because I think it's Jupiter. If you're looking at it, and you can't look at it directly, but if you kind of see it out of your peripherals,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can actually see it like dim and lighten up and almost change color.
Okay, yeah.
It wasn't quite like that. I mean, it had, you could actually tell the colors of it, but if you're up in the night sky and you're looking at the Big Dipper, okay?
Yeah.
One of the stars in the Big Dipper was it was that same size as one of the stars as the Big Dipper, and it was just going in a straight line.
Oh.
And then it just kind of disappeared.
Wow. That's hardcore.
And the weird thing is, the next night, the same time, the same path, I saw it again.
Now that is kind of curious because if it's that regular, maybe it is a satellite. Maybe that's just its trajectory and that's the time that it would go overhead. But I'm only guessing. But the fact that it was an exact repeat would sound something more satellite than UFO to me personally. But I could be wrong.
Well, see, that's what I was wondering about because I've seen satellites before, and they tend to stay just white.
Yes, that's
as far as I know, like in the spectrum of white colors.
Yep.
But this one had reds and blues, and sometimes it flashed pinks, and I mean it went and then it disappeared, and it covered from, let's say, same size as the Big Dipper star or whatever. Uh-huh. It covered the length of the Big Dipper. Let's say you're sitting out looking at the Big Dipper from the very tip of the handle to the very tip of the pan.
Uh-huh.
It covered that distance in about 3 seconds.
Wow.
And then it disappeared. And then the same exact thing happened. So I was curious if maybe it was a satellite or maybe I was...
Maybe, and maybe...
I don't know.
Maybe it disappeared because it was just out of the light. Like it maybe it crossed the horizon enough that it couldn't catch the sunlight anymore. I don't know. It's hard to know without seeing what you were seeing, but it sounds like if it's got a regular trajectory, you saw it 2 nights doing the exact same thing. That does sound satellite-like, but the changing colors doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of not sure.
And see, that was... Yeah, I was going to say that was my biggest curiosity because it didn't make sense to me. I mean...
Yeah,
I've seen plenty of satellites, and I understand kind of how they are, but this just didn't seem right. And obviously, we all had a few beverages that night.
Sure.
But at the same time, I asked my dad. He's been up there for 10, 11 years now, and he's like, I haven't seen it before, but everyone just jumped to the conclusion it was a satellite, and I'm going, I don't know. That's kind of a strange thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, brother. It's possible. I mean, I'm on the outside looking in, and all I can react to is what you're explaining. But it's kind of a toss up, I guess. Really, I mean, most likely it was probably a satellite, just because it did the same thing 2 nights in a row, exact same positioning. But the color changing is weird. But I don't know. Maybe there's something on the surface of that satellite that kind of refracted the light and created a prismatic effect as it went.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about that. That's why I wasn't all too, overly like, oh my God, I can't wait to tell this story. But at the same time, I was kind of like, I'm pretty curious about that.
Yeah, it's hard.
And I do have another story I want to tell you that
please.
I kind of spaced off.
Okay, by all means.
So, about 12 miles south of me, there is a river, and it is directly between the 2 borders. It is actually the border of the states. And a buddy of mine, we always go fishing down there at night. By fishing, I mean we go have a couple drinks and then come home. But
code name fishing, yeah.
We do. Yeah. Code name fishing. That's good. That's good. I hadn't thought of that. But anyways, it's middle of the day. We both had the day off. We're down there fishing, doing our thing. And a little bit cloudy out. And he looks up. He casts out and he looks up and he goes, "Hey, check that out," and I'm looking up there too. And it was like a black sphere.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of shot between two clouds and then disappeared. And we thought maybe it was a really high helicopter, but there was no noise, there were no lights, no nothing. It was just like this black sphere that went between two clouds and then disappeared. And we both looked at each other like, what was that? Or whatever. And he's a humongous Bigfoot fanatic. Like, we go down there and he thinks Bigfoot is watching us. So I was kind of skeptical about the whole thing, but it went from one cloud to another and then just disappeared with no sound. And I never remembered to mention that to you till tonight.
Wow. That sounds unusual. Like, that could be possibly something UFO-y.
Yeah, I've been meaning to remember it, and I just remembered it tonight. I don't know why tonight, but I did.
Wow. No, I don't know, brother. You might have actually seen something there. I don't know. With no sound, that's usually the dead giveaway to anything we put up in the air, unless it's a TR-3B, one of those man-made UFOs that people talk about. But those are triangular shaped. So, you could have really seen something. That's pretty intense.
Huh. So, speaking of TR-3Bs, what are your thoughts on the Phoenix Lights?
I think that, well, I'm sure it wasn't a TR-3B because the size of the craft that was described by the people on the ground as it went over their neighborhood this thing was like a mile or so wide. And so there's nothing we got in the sky anywhere near that size. So whatever was seen in Phoenix was most definitely, in my opinion, out of this world.
Yeah. And one last question before I let you go to get back to your show. I don't mean to be taking up all your time here.
You're welcome to take all the time you want, brother.
Well, I can't do that. The kid might get mad at me. She's been pretty crabby lately, so.
Okay.
But what are your thoughts on why advanced species such as the Greys, the supposed lizard men or whatever they call them, all the other species that could easily, with their technology and everything that's been seen and what they can do, they could wipe us out in a heartbeat or, whatever they want to do. Why do you believe that if they're visiting us, they haven't done it yet?
Well, I guess I tend to believe that if they wanted to, they would have done it already, that they're probably not here to smoke us, so to speak. I don't think, because there's nothing that would have, even a small number of craft with that advanced technology could probably destroy everything we have in a quick hurry. So my opinion is that they probably have a long history with this planet. We've those weird mummies that were found in Peru, the elongated skulls, the weird mummies that are found all over the place of creatures that look humanoid but are not. And apparently there's genetic testing to validate that, but even though you never hear of it outside of the Gaia channel too much. But I think that this is just a common stop in the cosmos for some reason. And it might be because, we have water readily available for their journeys across the stars or across the galaxies or whatever they're doing. And, I've said it jokingly many times, like we're like an intergalactic 7-Eleven, but I kind of mean it. I kind of think that this just might be a regular stop, and we're not really on that level of acknowledgement with them. But I think that in the history they've helped us. They've helped us develop our societies and our cultures and taught us things going way, way, way back. And, again, the alien astronaut theory, the Puma Punka and the Great Pyramids and all these amazing acts of very, brass age era or Bronze Age era carvings that were done in granite with absolute pristine angles and laser precision. I don't think our ancestors did that on their own. I think that we had help and we've been taught. And I don't know why. I don't know what the big picture is. But they seem to be, I don't know, stopping through, coming through. And I don't know that they're here all the time. I don't know that they're not. But it just seems to me that if they wanted to do something, they could have. And they could have done it when we were a lot less advanced than we are now. I just don't think that that's the end game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that that's what they want. Because why wait until we get better defenses to do it when they could have done it when we were still not flying at all. They could have come in and just cleaned the map, and if they wanted the planet, they would have done it way back then. I can't see there's any logic in them waiting until we have better weapons to fight with. If they wanted the planet, it would already have been theirs, and maybe it already was. I don't know. Maybe they used to live here with us, and that's where the education came from, and then they just kind of carried on across the stars. Who knows?
Now, this might sound like I'm a little insane here.
Okay.
Everyone in the comments, go easy on me. I know how it is. Everyone relax.
Sure.
Okay, now here's the thing. The Incas, the Egyptians, other ancient cultures seem to have just disappeared. Yes?
The civilizations disappeared, but the people didn't. The people just dispersed.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, civilizations disappeared, whatever. What if they have implanted the knowledge and taught those civilizations the things they needed to, I guess, evolve or become better, And let's say they got to a point where these civilizations were smart enough and advanced enough to where whoever's out there, if it's any possibility at all, were like, they have earned their place among the stars with us. So they came, they gathered survivors or whatever, and they took us.
Maybe.
And the leftovers are us, and they're just waiting to see if we're
if we're going to earn our
lack
place.
of a better word.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we're too stupid to earn our place among the stars. Everybody's killing everybody, everything, and it's just crazy. And these ancient civilizations, yeah, they did stuff like that, but it wasn't to the extent that we've taken it. So do you think there's a possibility that maybe we have gone beyond their trust or understanding, I guess? I can't think of a better term for it right now. Sure. For them to basically come and take us to a higher level of life?
That's possible. That's certainly, anything is possible, and of course nobody can know for sure, but, maybe some people did just go, with them. Maybe they had a choice back when those main visitors left, but I still think they're coming, and it maybe is possible that they're waiting for the rest of us to figure it out. I don't know. It's hard to know. But it's all on the table. Any idea like this is absolutely valid as far as I'm concerned. And it does sound out there, but, the idea that there's these beings from across the stars that are coming and going, and I have no doubt in my mind that they are, they must be here checking in on us. They must be here seeing how we're doing. There's also, there's stories of them, going after missile tests and deactivating missiles and deactivating warheads in entire bases. And, there's a lot of stories like that out there that people claim that they have, interfered and, inserted themselves into that. So it seems like they're actively interested in what we're doing. But what is the end game? I don't know. But I don't think it's malicious. I don't think so.
It'd be nice if they would just come deactivate all the warheads.
Yeah.
And just,
yeah,
give us a good spanking here. But what else was I just going to say? You got me going now. I was just going to say something else, too. And now I totally forgot about your UFO encounter. When you saw the two saucer discs with the lights in the center.
Yep.
They were obviously watching you. They knew you were there.
Sure. I would agree.
Do you think maybe that they watched you and were like, you know what, this guy's going to do something special and he's going to open the minds of many people, so we're not going to take him up in the ship and probe him today. We're just going to let him go. Well, I personally think that's kind of the case because they were right there. Yeah. No one was around. You know, you were a free meal basically, and maybe they saw something special in you, and
I hope so.
Your show and everything you're doing is a way for, you know, things to get around. Maybe, you know, you got to think of yourself that way. You're a special person for seeing that, and maybe they have a lot of faith in you.
Well, you know, that'd be nice. I don't know. I mean, was it just incidental? They just happened to be there, and I just happened to have the right tool at the time to see them. Because if I hadn't had night vision, I wouldn't have had any idea they were there. So just by chance, I had night vision and could see them. Otherwise, I would have just been looking at the stars and then gone inside. But because I just happened to have the one tool that could perceive them, to me is just bizarre. I mean, it's very much serendipity to me, and a synchronicity of sorts. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, brother. I'm not going to sit here and blow my own horn. I hope maybe they had the ability to see. I don't know. It's hard to know, and it would be just speculation. But I just think, they're just watching for whatever reason, and maybe that's possible. I don't know. It's hard for me to comment on that because I'd have to really blow my own ego to do that, and I can't. I can't do that. So, whatever.
No, I wasn't trying to get you to blow your own ego. So,
but I just think. But I was very glad I had that opportunity because it all became real in that one moment, beyond a doubt. Before I was a believer, but it's that saying, like, now I'm a knower. I've seen it. I've witnessed it. So it's kind of nice because before that was part of what would occupy my mind all the time. Are they really out there? Are they really there? Why haven't I seen anything? Just crap like that flying around my head all the time. And now that I've seen that, it's just like, okay, that's done. That's that. I know that they're there. I've seen it. I've experienced it, and that's cool. And it was one of those events that became one of the reasons that I wanted to do this show. Because I wanted to hear people's stories. What are they seeing? Because I've seen some pretty incredible stuff in my life, and I feel really honored that I have, and I want to hear what everyone else has seen. And it was one of the reasons I fell in love with Sasquatch Chronicles, was sitting and listening to all those stories of people telling what they had experienced firsthand. To me, it's just fascinating and amazing, So maybe they could look ahead and see what was coming. I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to say, brother, but here's to hoping.
So would you say that encounter was one of the main reasons you started this show?
It was certainly a part of it. I've always loved the paranormal, and to talk about the paranormal to me is just like, it's the greatest thing ever. So I love talking about this stuff, but having that experience in my mind really brought a lot of things home and gave me the maybe the courage to step forward and start talking and to do a show where I would talk about things I've seen as well. Because, a lot of things, other people could explain away, but nobody can explain that thing away. I know, I saw it. I witnessed it, and it was one of the most profound experiences of my life. And so it probably helped to give me the courage to go ahead and do the show more than anything.
Well, that's great. I'm glad they were there. Maybe everyone talks about them having telepathy, correct? And and knowing things.
Yeah.
And maybe they knew, I know this sounds crazy, whatever. Maybe they knew you had the binoculars. Maybe they knew that you seeing them in that spectrum was the push.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
You needed and they needed to be able to change the hearts and minds of people so they weren't so, forgive my language here, I don't mean no disrespect to anybody, but ignorant about it.
Yeah. No,
and maybe that's why I love the show, because I think you're one of the reasons why I've been digging into this more than I have been, because it's awesome, and I think your experience has not only opened my eyes, but everyone else's eyes are opening too, and it's fantastic.
Well, thank you, brother. I'm glad you found us, and I'm glad you're a part of what we're doing and part of the family. It's just it's fascinating and fantastic, and I'm so glad that, what this show has grown into and become as a result of people like you, and the people that come back time and time again and leave comments and all of that. It's just really an exciting road, but yeah, brother, I'm just thrilled.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. I've been waiting for a good quality show to be able to call in and not be judged about my experiences, and
Yeah,
some of them are off the wall and some of them are there, and I mean everyone kind of has their own thing, and
yeah.
it's been great calling in and talking with you guys about it all. So
Oh,
it's fantastic.
you're welcome anytime, brother. It's always great to hear from you.
Yeah, it's always fun to call in. I like talking. I could probably talk to you for the next 6 hours, but we all got jobs and nobody wants to listen to me for 6 hours. So
Nah, I'm good with it, brother. I'm good having the dialogue. But yeah, thanks for calling in. It's great to hear from you, man. And call in anytime.
yeah, well, thank you very much, and hopefully my call will spark some more phone calls, because I think people have more stories out there and they're maybe a little bit hesitant to call in. But let me tell them who are listening right now, this is the show to call in, because we all have open minds. We're all going to be your friends.
Yeah.
So call in, tell us your stories. Let's hear them.
Amen, brother.
That's all I got to say.
That's perfect. I appreciate it, man. And you have a great night. All right.
Yeah, no. You too. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
That's cool. I love those calls. I like talking too. I like talking about my experiences, and I like sharing my thoughts about these things too. Not, I don't get asked those kind of questions very often, and they're fun to ponder. I don't know. There's a lot of questions. I think that's probably the common denominator in the paranormal. That after you always start with questions, but after something happens, then you got a million more than what you had before, because the conversation evolves. When you've seen something, the conversation evolves. It's like, okay, well, now I know they're there. Then what the hell about all this other stuff? Before it's just a bunch of considerations. So very interesting. But I got to tell you guys, that's going to wrap up the journey. We ended up going into overtime, and that's okay. I'm always good with it. A good conversation is a great reason to stick around. So that's it for me. I will be back tomorrow, and we'll do more of the portal. 2 hours of fun tomorrow night. So I hope you'll join me, and we'll see what we'll get into. But whatever it is, we'll have a good time doing it. But I love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. And you guys have a great Friday, and I'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on YouTube, as well as TFR Live, iHeart, TuneIn, and TalkStream Live. So join me then. And until then, spread the word. If you want to help the show out, spread the word. Keep spreading the word. Let people know about this, and bring in more amazing people to be a part of it. So love you guys. Have a great night, and I'll talk to you soon.